Hi, I'm Julia. On this channel, I'm going to look at the issues facing our environment and our health, and with the best of my ability, I'll summarise and share my review of the evidence with you. In this first episode, we'll look at agriculture and the greenhouse gas emissions modern agriculture produces. Is the way we produce our food a problem? And if it is it a good idea to change to a plant-based diet to help reduce greenhouse gas emissions? In other words, should we go vegan? There are different motivations to go vegan, such as for personal health, for ethics, and to protect our environment. These reasons are motivating more and more of us to eliminate meat and dairy from our diet, and for some vegans to stop consuming all animal products entirely, including eating no honey and wearing no leather shoes. So, what are the environmental reasons for choosing a vegan diet? An environmental vegan is a person who chooses not to eat meat or dairy to help alleviate the impact that human activity is having on the planet. Is it a good idea? Do the kinds of foods we eat impact how much we each contribute to anthropogenic environmental harm? That is, environmental harm due to human activity. Is there evidence to support environmental veganism? Well, yes, the evidence is strong that agricultural practices adversely impact the environment in several ways. By producing greenhouse gases, by increased water use and degradation of the water supply, by reducing the habitats available for wild animals and for ecological diversity, as well as by overloading the nitrogen cycle. That's a lot of problems to think about. So let's start with agriculture and greenhouse gas emissions and look at the evidence. It is well documented that agricultural practices contribute to climate change as they emit the greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide into the atmosphere. It's been estimated that global food production accounts for more than 1/4 of the total greenhouse gas emissions produced by human activity. What are the reasons that agriculture generates so many emissions? There are several. Growing food, raising livestock and getting the food to market all use fossil fuels at every step of the process of raising and growing our food. Fossil fuels produce carbon dioxide and are used to operate farm machinery, to transport produce around the nation and around the globe by air and by container ship, to manufacture fertilizers and pesticides, as well as to refrigerate and process food. The widespread use of fertilizers for agricultural practices produce the greenhouse gas nitrous oxide, and this accounts for most of our anthropogenic emissions of nitrous oxide into the atmosphere. Raising farm animals generates greenhouse gases. Indirectly, agriculture contributes to greenhouse gas emissions as land use is changed to produce food and raise animals for meat and dairy. More greenhouse gases are made. And the problem is worsened if forest is cleared to create farmland. Then less forest is available to sequester carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Is there any difference between growing plants for us to eat and raising livestock for meat and dairy? The answer is a resounding yes. The farming of livestock tops the list when it comes to greenhouse gas emissions from agriculture. Somewhere between 14 and 18% of all greenhouse gas generated by us come from raising livestock. One reason is that we have to feed the farm animals, and growing grains for feed uses extra energy and fossil fuels. About 1/3 of all crops grown in the world are merely grown to feed livestock. In the USA, less than half of cropland, only about 40%, is devoted to growing food for us to consume directly ourselves. Another reason that raising livestock is so bad is that livestock expel manure, and manure emits methane. Ruminants such as cattle, sheep and goats make lots and lots of methane. This is because they rely on bacteria in their gut to help them digest plant materials with fermentation, and this generates methane. Because of this, the ruminants known as cows, when we raise them for beef, create the most greenhouse gases, followed by cows raised for milk production, followed by the raising of pigs for pork. Another livestock-related generator of greenhouse gas is the transportation of meat around the world and the transportation of the animal feed to raise the animals to produce meat and dairy around the world. So what can we do? Things you could consider if you want to help mitigate your personal contribution to greenhouse gas emissions are: well, firstly, you could go all the way vegan and eat only a plant-based diet that avoids processed foods. It has been estimated that per person, per day, greenhouse gas emissions could be reduced by 25% compared to the average American diet by becoming a vegan. On a per calorie basis, it's possible that a high meat diet, more than 4 ounces a day, produces 2.5 times more greenhouse gas emissions than a vegan diet. And it may not be necessary to become a card-carrying vegan, at least if only considering your diet's contribution to greenhouse gas emissions. You could become vegetarian or replace ruminant meats with plant-based foods. Both can help reduce greenhouse emissions. Or you could just try to eat a healthy diet with less meat and dairy and more whole grains and fewer processed foods. Whichever of these options you choose, remember to buy locally as much as you can, as local food means less fossil fuel use. In a future episode, I'll look at whether it's entirely possible to eat nutrient-rich plant-based foods and to meet all our body's nutritional requirements without consumption of meat and dairy. Remember, it's not just about you. There are changes to the systems of food production that can help too. Think about who you want to support politically. Will they bring legislation that will help to change our transportation systems away from fossil fuels and promote land and forest conservation? Next time, we'll take a look at agriculture and freshwater use and see if this part of our food production could be motivation to choose a plant-based diet. If you enjoyed this video, remember to like this page and subscribe to Your Care Plan on YouTube. Thank you and see you next time.
Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here.